Greetings, dear all. I am Dr. G. Suresh, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Computer Applications, St.Joseph College of Arts and Science, Autonomous, Cuddalore. In this topic, we will deal with software project lifecycle models. First, we will see what is lifecycle model. The lifecycle model describes how the phases of a software project combine together to form a complete project or a life cycle. Such a model is characterized by the following attributes: the activities to be performed in every phase, the deliverables from each activity, the methods of validation of the deliverables, the sequence of activities to be performed, the methods of verification of each activity, including the mechanism of communication amongst the activities. There are different life cycle models. They are the waterfall model, prototyping and rapid application development models, spiral or iterative model, the V model, and the modified V model. First we will discuss one by one. First we will discuss waterfall model. Waterfall model. The waterfall model, a project is divided into a set of phases or activities. Each phase or activity contains a set of actions or software engineering tasks. The waterfall model consists of the following activities. The first one is the overall business requirements. The model starts with the overall business requirements, software and hardware requirements, planning, high-level design and the low-level design, coding, and finally testing. The waterfall model ends with testing. This is a simple diagram which explains the waterfall model. The waterfall model begins with the overall business requirements, proceeds to the software requirements, then the planning is done. The planning, high-level design is done. Next, a detailed low-level design is done. Next, with the help of the design, we move for coding, and finally, after completing the coding, a testing phase is done. And after the testing is completed, it is ready for deployment at the customer site. The waterfall model is characterized by three attributes. They are: the project is divided into a set of separate distinct phases. Each phase communicates to the next phase through pre-specified outputs. That is, the output of one phase becomes the input for the next phase. When an error is detected, it is traced back to one previous phase at a time until it gets resolved at some earlier phase. That is, this backtracked. It moves from one phase to the previous phase. Next is prototyping and rapid application development model. Prototyping and rapid application development models recognize and address the following issues. Early and frequent user feedback will increase the chances of a software project meeting the customer's requirements. So it is very important that a project should meet all the customer requirements. A project will come in a fruitful way only when all the customer requirements have been included in the project. So when the project moves on, there will be more changes. The changes are unavoidable and the software development process must be able to adapt itself to rapid changes. To adapt these changes, we have two models. One is prototyping model, the other one is rapid application development model. The prototyping model uses the constant user interaction early in the requirements gathering stage to produce a prototype. Prototype is nothing but the working model of the software development project. So with the help of a prototype, we are building a model, and from the model we develop the specification. The prototype is used to drive the system requirements specification, that is SRS, and can be discarded after the SRS is built. An appropriate lifecycle model is chosen for building the actual product after the user accepts the system requirement specification. So the end product of prototyping model is nothing but the SRS. Once SR is built, the prototyping model can be discarded. Next comes the rapid application development model, shortly we will call as RAD model. It is not a prototype but that is built, but the actual product itself. In order to ensure formalism in capturing the requirements and proper reflection of the requirements in the design and subsequent phases, a case tool, that is computer-aided software engineering tool, is used throughout the life cycle right from the requirements gathering. Next comes the spiral iterative model. The progress of the product can be seen from the beginning of the project as the model delivers increments at regular intervals. Even though it will be very difficult to plan a release date following this model, it allows the progress to be tracked and the customer approvals to be obtained at regular intervals, thereby reducing the risk of finding major defects at a later point of time. There is a simple diagram that explains how the spiral model works. The requirements are listed here. This is the first phase. During every cycle in a spiral, we get one iteration, and from every iteration we get a new release, a new version of the software which we are developing. So in all the phases we can see the requirements. The V model. The V model starts off being similar to the waterfall model in that it envisages product development to be made up of number of phases or levels. The V model splits testing into two parts, design and execution. This is where the V model differentiates between the other model. The testing is done in accordance with the phase. The test design is done early while test execution is done in the end. There are different types of tests for each phase of a life cycle. Phase of testing for different development phases. This is the overall business requirement, and for this we have acceptance testing, and for software requirements we have system testing. For high level design we have integration testing, and for low level we have component testing, and for coding unit testing. This is the testing. This testing has been divided into two portions. One is the design. This is design, and after the completion we will go for execution. So this is the design phase, and this is the execution phase. Acceptance design is done in the overall business requirements, and the execution is done at the later stage. So it's a typical example that explains how V model works. Next comes the modified V model. In the modified V model, recognize that different parts of a product are at different stages of evolution. Each part enters appropriate testing phase, such as unit testing, component testing, and so on, and the appropriate entry criteria are met. It will allow one phase to enter the next phase only when the appropriate entry criteria is met. So this is a simple diagram that explains the modified V model. These are the different types of testing, and these are the different phases of testing. So the unit testing must undergo unit test. This represents it is completed here. Then moves to the next stage, and finally to enter into the unit test phase, it must satisfy this entry criteria, and after completing the unit test, it must fulfill the exit criteria. And this diagram explains the modified V model. Thank you.